Oh man, I gotta get into the zone for this. Just a disclaimer for our readers, I am not going to try to pronounce anything correctly.
It's like Latin, you'll just do it in your own accent.
That's correct. When I read Latin, I just do it in Mountain West drawl. Okay, you all ready?
We are ready.
The three-body problem by that guy that Brock said.
Say it again.
Liu Cixin.
Nice.
The three-body problem by him. Ye Wenji is one of millions of Chinese to suffer under the Cultural Revolution. With the complicity of her sister and mother, her father is beaten to death before her eyes during a public shaming demonstration for failing to renounce physics. She is transferred to a deforestation project intended to produce farmland, though the ensuing soil erosion has been instead creating vast swaths of non-arable desert. She helps a reporter transcribe a book on environmentalism, but when his translation is discovered, he claims that she wrote it. She is transferred as a punishment to Radar Peak, a gigantic military radar dish installation that can magically kill flocks of birds as they fly past, and she is informed that she will spend the rest of her life working there. Forget about that, because in the modern day, we're introduced to Wang Miao, whose character trait is that he doesn't possess any character traits. As a member of the Chinese scientific community, he is informed that leading scientists have been committing suicide under mysterious circumstances. Top government officials ask him to go undercover within a secret club, the Frontiers of Science, to figure out why. Wang is not interested in taking part in any spooky ghost stories, so he declines. Unfortunately for Wang, the spooky ghost story catches up to him while developing photo film. In his pictures are numbers that seem to be counting down. He takes more pictures and more, but the numbers are still there, counting down. Nobody else's pictures are similarly possessed. Then the countdown appears in his vision right before his eyes and won't go away. Desperate, he speaks to some members of the Frontiers of Science, but they're all creepy, and they just tell him to quit his current science fair project, which is nanofilament wires for cutting ocean liners in half.
That's what they were
it's a
invented
possible.
for.
Surely this
possible
detail won't
use.
be crucial later on. When he goes to work and temporarily halts the project for a totally different reason he promises, the numbers disappear from his vision. Later, the entire universe punks Wang by flickering. He starts to feel picked on. Like many millennials...
Punked.
Ashton Kutcher runs out. Like many millennials, instead of facing his problems, Wang decides to play video games.
That's awesome.
He chooses Three Body, which won the Hugo Award for Most Boring Game and consumes 200 pages of the book. Three Body takes place on a planet with unstable ecological conditions that don't seem to adhere to any pattern, and seasons that switch between orderly and chaotic, and fifth seasons when everyone catches fire and dies. Luckily, the inhabitants of the game can dehydrate into coin pouch form in order to survive. It's a trick that would have come in handy in the fifth season. Surprising nobody, Wang thinks this game is super cool. Every time he logs on, other players, or NPCs, it's never clear, have invented new theories or technologies to help explain the planet's wonky seasons. He meets Aristotle, a pope, Isaac Newton, and other bigwigs. They build a computer with everybody... What?
Oh, sorry. I was just going to say, and the Asian philosophers, too.
Yes.
Did you mention, like, Copernicus and stuff?
No, well, he's Copernicus.
Or, I mean...
He logs in as
all right.
Copernicus.
Never mind. I forgot.
Okay, so he meets some bigwigs. They build a computer with everybody standing in lines like living circuits, and still can't figure out what's going on. Wang eventually proves that he's smarter than this game's version of Einstein by figuring out that this planet has 3 suns whose gravity fields compete for the orbit of the planet and sometimes align, burning it up in the process. Because he's done so well at Three Body, which in retrospect is a bad title since it's the solution to the game's puzzle, It is.
Who'd have thunk?
Oh, yeah.
Wang is invited to
Solved
some
it.
secret club meetings. There he meets Pan Han, one of the creepy Frontiers of Science guys. He tries to blow Wang's mind by revealing that the video game was real. Wang, doesn't seem bothered by this. More disturbing, this group hopes to help the Trisolarans. They're called that because they have 3 sons. It's super original. They hope to help them conquer Earth. They've splintered into 2 factions, one that hopes to coexist with the Trisolarans, and one that wants to see humanity exterminated. The police kick down the door and arrest everyone, including Ye Wenji, who is revealed as one of the founders of this group. She reveals more of her past from Radar Peak. It turns out that the secret military project is partially intended to detect alien life. Despite this, her life is so boring that she marries a former student of her father's. Over time, Wenji uses science to transmit to potential aliens and receives a warning that the Trisolarans are a warlike species. Still bitter about that cultural revolution phase, she insists that they come and conquer Earth, since they can't possibly do a worse job than humans. Her husband finds out what she's done, so she drops him off a cliff. He becomes a ghost. I guess that's where Wang's ghost numbers came from, because I didn't understand that part. And if you think that's unbelievable, there's a hard-drinking cop investigating the scientist suicides who is inexplicably invited to every military meeting, even though he sasses all the generals. Next, we switch to the Trisolaran point of view somehow. They've assembled a fleet to conquer Earth, but it will take 400 years before they arrive. In order to stall human scientific progress, the Trisolarans mess with the laws of reality to create the biggest ghosts of all, 2 quantum-entangled intelligent protons called sophons that have been messing with the human scientists' science fair projects and tricking them into committing suicide. As is often the case, the mystery is so mundane once you know the truth. Wang and his sassy cop friend are now tasked with stopping the other evil scientist, Mike Evans, who's impossible to catch because he owns a boat. Fortunately, Wang's science fair project is all about cutting boats in half, so they rig the Panama Canal with invisible decapitation wire to murder any ship passing through. After a dozen innocent ships are chopped into confetti,
Wait.
they finally wreck Mike Evans' boat and capture all his stuff that he's been using to speak with the aliens. The Trisolarans send one last message that tells humanity, "You're bugs." Which, because we don't know that the aliens aren't bugs, we don't know if it's an insult or a compliment.
Yeah. I mean, it could be like a,
They
hey,
could
us
be
too.
like bugs.
Even though,
Let's hang out.
yeah, even though she's doomed humanity to extinction, which makes her the biggest killer in human history, Ye Wenji is allowed to visit Radar Peak one last time. She looks at the sun and says cryptically, "My sunset and sunset for humanity," which she read on a greeting card somewhere. What a bummer. The end.